Information security threats and attack vectors. Identifying types of hacking technologies. Many methods and tools exist for locating vulnerabilities, running exploits, and compromising systems. Once vulnerabilities are found in a system, a hacker can exploit that vulnerability and install malicious software. Trojans, backdoors, and rootkits are all forms of malicious software or malware. Malware is installed on a hacked system after a vulnerability has been exploited. Buffer overflows and SQL injections are two other methods used to gain access into computer systems. Buffer overflows and SQL, these technologies and attack methods will each be discussed in later chapters. Many are so complex that an entire chapter is devoted to explaining the attack and applicable technologies. Most hacking tools exploit weaknesses in one of the following four areas. Operating systems. Many system administrators install operating systems with the default settings, resulting in potential vulnerabilities that remain unpatched. Applications. Applications usually aren't thoroughly tested for vulnerabilities when developers are writing the code, which can leave many programming flaws that a hacker can exploit. Most applications development is feature driven, meaning programmers are under a deadline to turn out the most robust application in the shortest amount of time. Shrink wrap code. Many off-the-shelf programs come with extra features the common user isn't aware of, and these features can be used to exploit the system. The macros in Microsoft Word, for example, can allow a hacker to execute programs from within the application. Misconfiguration. System can also be misconfigured or left at the lowest common security settings to increase ease of use for the user. This may result in vulnerability and an attack. Attack vectors include viruses, email attachments, web pages, pop-up windows, instant messages, chat rooms, and deception. All of these methods involve programming or in a few cases hardware, except deception in which a human operator is fooled into removing or weakening system defenses. To some extent, firewalls and antivirus software can block attack vectors, but no protection method is totally attack-proof. A defense method that is effective today may not remain so for long, because hackers are constantly updating attack vectors and seeking new ones in their quest to gain unauthorized access to computer systems and servers. The most common malicious payloads are viruses, which can function as their own attack vectors. Trojan horses, worms, and spyware. If an attack is thought of as a guided missile, its payload can be compared to the warhead in the tip of the missile. Let's talk about exploit. What is exploit? Exploit is a way to circumvent security. Hack value, a value associated to a system. Vulnerability, a weakness in the design of any IT software or hardware. Target of evaluation, or TOE, a device, product, software, person that an evaluator has decided is worth evaluating. Zero-day attack, any launched at a vulnerability that has not yet been patched. Daisy chaining, exploiting a workstation in an environment and using it to attack servers in that environment. Usability, graphical user interface, functionality, features. Security, restrictions. Attack vectors, different ways or paths that attackers may use to compromise your environment. Footprinting threat, host machine threat. Specific devices response in many ways that identify the device. Physical security threat, host machine threat, devices left physically unattended or physically vulnerable. Password threats, host machine threat and lacks password policy. Malware threat, host machine threat, malign software installed on a host machine. Denial of service threat, Host machine threat, networking threat, intentional or unintentional network traffic that bogs down a network and denies the service. Unauthorized access threat, host machine threat, using someone else's credentials to gain access. Privilege escalation threat, host machine threat, once access is gained, changing access levels. Backdoor threat, host machine threat, usually created by malware or trojans, gives the attacker an easier way to get in than the first time. Natural threat, caused by earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, other natural disasters. Physical threat, data loss or compromise due to theft, impact, power, end of life, or donations. Configuration threat, application threat, accidental installation or of malware and other software by not properly configuring an installation, setting devices up with default usernames and passwords or default configurations, most of which are well known. Buffer overflow threat, application threat occurs when a process or application tries to store more data in the buffer than it was intended causing it to overflow into the next area. Lazy coding threat, application threat, copying and pasting of code from one application to another. Data input validation threat, application threat, not validating input can cause hiccups which can allow access. Malicious employee threat, human threat, someone possibly getting fired or unhappy for various reasons. Lack of training threat, human threat, employees not trained to not fall for phishing and other scams. Social network threat, human threat may leave companies vulnerable to social engineering and other threats by oversharing. Hacker threat, human threat, sniffing, eavesdropping threat. Network threat, listening to network traffic. ERP poisoning, network threat, changing what a workstation believes is that the default gateway and rerouting it through the bad guy's computer, capturing information. Spoofing threat, network threat is sending packets across the network while pretending to be another machine or another person. Attack vector examples: virtual machine and cloud environments, unpatched OS software, social network, internal users, hacktivism, malware, botnets, security staffing, lack of security policies, compliance with regulation laws, complexity of network infrastructure, mobile devices. Owned, taking control of a computer and adding it to a botnet. Hacktivism, hacking for a cause. IPv6 attack vector examples: auto-configuration, incompatibility of logging systems, default activation, shortcuts, bigger headers, 4 to 6 translations, multiple IPs per device, network discovery.